Good evening. It is 5:15. It's time to begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. The roll call will show that all council members are present. I'd like to read a proclamation regarding mental health awareness. Whereas the month of May has been declared as Mental Health Awareness Month, and whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and whereas all Americans experience times of difficulty and stress in their lives, good mental health sustains an individual's thought process, relationships, productivity, and ability to adapt and change or face adversity. And whereas mental health adversely affects those abilities and often is life-threatening in nature. And whereas serious mental illness such as major depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, obsessive-compulsive disorder, severe anxiety disorders, and post-traumatic stress disorders affect 1 in every 5 people annually. And suicide is the second leading cause of death of our youth in Iowa. And whereas education and prevention are effective ways to reduce the burdens associated with mental illness, and we all share in the responsibility to help anyone with signs of mental illness, and to help promote awareness and understanding of mental wellness, mental illness, and substance use disorders, and support prevention efforts in our families, schools, and community. Now therefore, I, Gerald Fletchner, Mayor of the City of Carroll, declare the month of May as Mental Health Awareness Month, and call upon our City Council and the community to promote awareness and understanding of mental wellness, and to stand by those with mental health challenges, and to remind them that they are never alone. That's a proclamation dated today, and I believe we have some people here this evening that know a lot about this, so if anybody'd like to speak on this, sure, by all means, come on up.
So we thank the Mayor of the City Council for recognizing May as Mental Health Awareness Month. My name is Jen Barber, and I'm with Campus Healthcare Collaborative, and we manage the Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health Grant, and we are on year 3 of 4, and which we focus on strengthening the collaboration and expanding behavioral health services for the youth and their families throughout Carroll County. Mental health continues to be an important issue affecting our youth. According to NAMI, 1 in 7 youth ages 6 to 17 experience a mental health disorder each year, and nearly 40% of high school students report persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness. As mentioned, suicide also remains the second leading cause of death for youth and young adults ages 10 to 24. These statistics reinforce the importance of awareness, early support, and strong community partnerships to ensure that youth and families have access to care and the resources that they need. We are grateful for the strong partnerships with Carroll Community Schools, Kemper Catholic Schools, Catholic Charities, New Opportunities, St. Anthony Regional Hospital, Plains Area Mental Health, and Season Center for Behavioral Health, and many other organizations throughout Carroll County that work every day to support the mental health and well-being of our youth and their families. So together we remain committed to building a healthier, more compassionate community for all. Thank you again for recognizing May as Mental Health Awareness Month. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anything else to say?
Thank you guys.
Okay.
Thanks for what you do.
Yeah, you guys do an awesome job. I hear great things about the mental ward up there, so, I don't know what correct what you call it, or
Unit?
the unit, I mean the ward, unit, okay?
Yeah.
Don't crucify me, guys. But you guys do a phenomenal job up there, and please let us know if there's anything. I'd spoken to Dr. Canuso, and told if there's anything that, from this level that I can do to, I 100%, Dr. Kid, 20 years in the Marines, I get it, man, so, very good work, guys.
This is Alex, and she's actually with St. Anthony's, and the 3 of us are from Catholic Charities. So.
Awesome. So I was adopted through Catholic Charities, so.
What?
yeah.
Cool.
Right.
Thank
Right,
you all
thank
for
you
you
very
guys.
much. Thank you.
Some would say I'm a success story, others, very still out.
We'll give you the thumbs up.
You can't
All
leave.
right, we'll move on to the consent agenda,
No, I don't.
which includes approval of minutes of the April 27th, 2026 meeting, approval of bills and claims, and the Iowa DOT agreement for maintenance and repair of primary roads in municipalities. Are there any questions?
So moved.
All right, motion by Jason and Jeff seconded to approve the consent agenda. Roll call, please.
Atherton?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Coster?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
All right, are there any oral requests or communications from the audience regarding anything that is not on the agenda this evening? Anyone care to speak? All right, we'll move on to ordinances. The first is West Gulfview Subdivision Urban Renewal Plan, and this is consideration of the ordinance for the division of revenues under section 403.19 Code of Iowa for West Gulfview Subdivision under Urban Renewal Plan, and this is the second reading. Aaron?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, this is the mechanism in which we set the ordinance so that we can collect the urban renewal dollars in the West Gulfview subdivision so that we can reimburse ourselves the funds that we have agreed to put out as a part of the infrastructure for that subdivision. Here recently with the State House passing the property tax bill, it's actually, the TIF changes were actually a very good thing for us in this case. So as long as we have the ordinance in place before January 1 of 27, we will be able to collect on the school foundation levy, which is they put it at $4.50. Do you remember, Laura?
Well, currently it's $5.40.
It's $5.40, but I
I'm
thought
not
they
sure
were
what
putting
it's
it back
on.
down to $4.90.
is the new one, okay.
Okay, so that will also be within the LMI funds, so we'll be able to collect on the school portion. We do not have to set aside low to moderate income housing funds out of this, so that actually creates an extra, I think you figured it up to be
$211,500.
$211,000 to help us collect and get reimbursed quicker in this case. And then finally, instead of having a 15-year, it becomes a 20-year taxing entity. As you all know, when we figured it up, we don't need 20 years, but it allows for 20 years. And with the LMI set aside, we won't need 15 years. So those are all pretty good things for putting the ordinance in place and getting that moving as soon as we can.
All right, any questions? All right, is there a motion to approve the second reading?
So moved.
By Jason? Second. And Jeff seconded. Roll call, please.
Seaman?
Yes.
Coster?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the Carroll City Ordinance, Chapter 75.03 Amendment, all-terrain vehicles, golf carts, off-road utility vehicles, and snowmobiles. And Aaron?
Yep, Brett, since Brad's got other duties as assigned tonight, we did go back and look at the golf cart ordinance for the city to become more in line with the state code. We changed the wording from you had to be 18 licensed driver to a licensed driver, so that which means if you're 16 and you have a driver's license, you are able to operate the golf cart on city roads as you're going to and from the golf course. That's the only change that we made to be more compliant or compatible with the state code.
All right, any questions on that?
You guys are good with that? Just gotta ask you guys. You guys are.
You have to have proof of insurance. I assume you stop and ask for that every time when they're speeding on golf carts, right?
Speeding?
I had to say it, sorry. All right, if there are no other questions, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
First reading.
Jason? I'm
The
sorry,
first
that
reading.
would be the first reading, excuse me.
Second.
And Jeff, secondly, roll call, please.
Coster?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes. I have a question real quick.
Yes.
Is this something that we can actually waive through the third, because we're changing a word?
On any motion,
Yeah,
when
okay,
it
but
comes to ordinances,
these are
you,
ones,
you
you
can,
know,
you
these-
can make that
I
motion
don't
if
know
you
how everyone
wish.
feels about, we're changing a word. So,
It's already on the table without, people have already voted, so we probably can't now, or can we rescind that?
we haven't finished the
You
vote
could, you're
though.
just approving the first reading right now.
Okay, and then I
So
can,
then you can make a
okay,
motion to approve, certainly, okay.
Yes.
We interrupted the vote here, so who else is?
Seaman was the last. I said yes.
Okay.
That was a.
so I'll make a motion
I did.
to,
I don't think I voted.
Yeah, I had you.
Oh, all right.
do you have an objection, or?
Do you have a vote, yes or
I
no?
didn't think I voted.
Just to clarify, or, okay,
Do you have an objection?
you're fine, okay.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to waive the second and third. My fear is that if we drag this on, golf season's done, you know, golf season's done, so I'll make the motion to waive the second and third and pass it
All right,
into.
by Jason, is there a second? I second. And by Jeff, roll call vote, please.
Seaman?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes,
Dirk?
Yes.
Coster?
Yes.
All right, now there's a motion by Jeff to adopt the ordinance,
second.
and Jason seconded.
Oh, yes, okay.
Roll call, please.
Seaman?
Yes.
Atherton?
Yes,
Dirk?
Yes.
Coster?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Ordinance is adopted.
all my 16-year-old golfers out there, don't screw this up.
All right, resolution, Ziegler Urban Renewal Plan, and Aaron.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We have gotten back from discussing with the attorneys from Ziegler Caterpillar. They've come back with their numbers as far as what they're going to put as far as a facility and what they're going to do as far as employees. The city, because of they want, this actually started about a year ago where they were wanting to get started or wanted to be in business as of January 1 of this year, which is why it turned into them putting in the infrastructure for us rather than us doing the infrastructure. And so we got to this point with this development agreement. The urban renewal is actually already in place. So this development agreement is just more of the finalizing Ziegler Caterpillar coming to Carroll. And so we're asking to set the public hearing for this development agreement. It is a $1.1 million forgivable loan, whereas the Ziegler Cat and LLC would put the infrastructure in for the city. The city would then inspect it, see that whatever the costs were that they have for that development, we would give them the cost of the development back as far as a loan to them. They would then have to be in business for 20 years. We would recoup the dollars for the infrastructure in approximately 10 years, but they still have to be in business for 20 before we forgive the entire loan to them. So over the 20 years, each year we would be forgiving, basically, if you were doing it over a 20-year period, you'd forgive them about $55,000 each year. So, for example, if they were to be here for 12 years and then pick up business and leave, they'd still owe us they'd have to reimburse us 8 years of that loan.
We're setting the public hearing tonight, but.
Correct.
Will Ziegler have people here the night of the public hearing so that if there are questions?
Their corporate offices are up in Minnesota. Since the guy that originally started the negotiations, Terry Draper, retired, I have not had personal contact with any corporate people from Ziegler other than the attorney that was handling the negotiations.
This is quite a bit smaller than the original proposal a few years ago.
Correct.
So we'll add how smaller it is. Originally, this deal came to us at $35 million building, 20 to 40 jobs with a possible of 60 jobs as Fort Dodge shut down for the $1.1 million. I'll use a similar deal that we just did with Echo, which is $104,000 for a $4 million building and 9 employees. Now we are at a $1.1 million job for $5 million with up to 6 people.
No, they're required to have 6.
They're required to have 6, okay, so they're required to have 6. With these two as kind of the baseline of where this deal was, I've tried to comprehend this through my head of how we got to this evaluation on this building coming in here at $1.1 million for a $5 million building. That's based on what we gave to Echo and what we originally had. Somewhere in that negotiation, we're 10 times what we're spending to have Echo come here, who's required to have more jobs, and just $1 million building less. And so I'm really struggling, and maybe the council can help me out, but I'm really struggling to figure out where we met on that number. And if we're approving this, what is the basis of us approving this on when we have the two standards and we're somewhere in the middle of nowhere? Like,
Mr. Mayor, we're not approving it tonight.
No,
We're setting the date, so we need to stay on the topic that we're to vote on, correct?
Well,
Point of order about that. And so all we need to do tonight is set
Correct.
the public hearing.
That's right.
So it's transparent.
Well, the problem is I
And
can't-
then we'll talk about,
yeah.
Okay,
then we'll talk about,
and
So we
certainly it
can
can be
use this
brought up
2
again.
weeks
and-
between now and then
Yeah.
to answer some.
I can't accurately vote on this if there isn't some form of discussion. I'm not asking like in-depth questions. I'm just asking, how did we come up with this equation so that I can even know if I want this to go to a public hearing? Where did this, you know what I mean? I'm not like diving knee deep into, like, how did we come up with this equation to even get this to go to a public hearing? I'll ask you, I think that's a valid question to
That's
ask
fair,
before
so
we,
Go ahead, and I see it as fair to answer.
I mean, would
This
you
is
say,
just that they
you know,
changed- they-
I'm not asking you to answer that question. I think it's a fair question that I'm asking before we go to the public hearing.
Question might be whether or not it can be adequately answered right now. You know, before you take a vote on it.
Well, we have a developer's agreement in hand, so I mean, it should be, right? We have a development agreement signed.
Whoever negotiated it would need to answer those questions, right?
Yeah, can I get those questions answered before we go into the public
Will
hearing,
this
so I know if I
development
want to vote
agreement
on
be
it?
on the agenda after the public hearing?
The approval, yes, the approval of the
We haven't
development
approved
agreement.
this agreement.
Correct.
yet.
No.
Oh.
So,
No.
but to give a 1,000-foot view, when we did Echo was combining a number of buildings within town to move into their one building. So they weren't really bringing 9 new jobs to town, they were combining jobs into that one building. So it's a little bit, and that's why each development agreement is completely different than one as opposed to the other, because when we do the development agreement, you have to look at what they're doing and then what we can work out with when it comes to the TIF agreement and how we can repay that. So in this case with Ziegler, they had to, in order to get the infrastructure to them, they have to cross what creek is that?
But we knew that before.
Middle Raccoon to get there. So the infrastructure costs are a lift station along with a number of force main pipe for sewer and water main because we don't have water out there. I think we had water for the Echo building. We only had to do one extension. It might have been the other way around. We might have had sewer but not water. So the infrastructure costs they're not similar. We just did the cost of the infrastructure is what we normally work on when it comes to a development agreement. And that's what we're dealing with here. The cost is a little bit more because it's a lift station.
Do they have to bore under the creek then, or how do they do that?
Yes.
All right,
I would move approval to approve the resolution to set the public hearing for May 26th.
second,
all right, Jeff made the motion, and Carolyn seconded, roll call, please.
Coster,
And we're voting only to have a public hearing, is that
Just have a
correct?
public
Yeah,
hearing.
yeah.
And at that public
Just
hearing, we
asking
can
that.
have more questions asked and we'll be able to get more
Absolutely.
answers.
Right.
Because
That's
that is
the
what's
point of it.
transparent, is because we've kind of did the whole deal with the Gulf View, kind of slammed it through. I'll vote yes for a public hearing.
oh, yeah,
Taylor,
Yes.
Seaman,
yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Atherton,
I'm gonna say no. I don't think my question's answered.
Bauer.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Next, we'll move to the Interstate Power and Light Company easement request. And Randy?
Thank you, Mayor. Alliant Energy is proposing a high-pressure gas line extension or replacement, I guess, along Grant Road from Fifth Street to Seventh Street. They've requested of the city an easement on some property owned in the southwest corner of US 30 and Grant Road. That's the former Casey's property. The easement's actually located along the north property line of that property, and then they'll cross Highway 30 from there. The easement conveyance is actually a conveyance of interest in property, and to do that, cities need to conduct a public hearing on that. So we are proposing a public hearing be scheduled for May 26th on the proposed granting of this easement. Unless there are any questions, that's the recommendation unless there are any questions.
So there's not currently gas in that area?
There is currently gas. They need to rebuild that line.
So moved.
Second.
That's for May 26th.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Dirk,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Atherton.
Yes.
Coster,
Yes.
Seaman,
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Okay, we'll move on to reports, and the report we have this evening is to set a public hearing for fiscal year 2025-26 budget amendment number 2. And Laura?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is typically the time of year that we look at to see if a budget amendment is required to finish out the end of the year. A budget is put together well in advance of when we actually operate, and so as with the budget, it is a guide map, so to speak, if things happen during the year that we weren't aware of when we originally put the budget together. So this is an opportunity, or this is what we would need to do to make sure we don't overspend our budget. All these items that were included in here are projects that were part of the fiscal 26 estimates when we prepared our fiscal 27 budget, or they were items that council had approved at a separate council meeting and talked about the funding, if it was part of the budget or not. I won't go through each one of them, however, if you do have any questions, just let me know. There is a listing of the items as part of this memorandum, as well as then look of what the notice of the public hearing would look like that would go into the paper. The request is to set the public hearing for our next council meeting on May 26th, just like about everything else that we've done tonight, to set a public hearing for the next council meeting.
All right. Will there be a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Jason made the motion, Jeff seconded. Roll call, please.
Taylor,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Atherton.
Yes.
Coster,
Yes.
Dirks,
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
All right, committee reports are available for everyone. I have no comments this evening. I will say one, that the baseball, very pleased to see how well that went this weekend. I drove by there several times and stopped to watch some, and it was a good weekend to show off our beautiful facility, and thank you for Chad and everyone else that worked so hard on that.
So yeah, I want to thank Chad too. I called the local hotels. I know that the stadiums by no means were packed every time that I drove down there, but the hotels that I called were full with teams, and so I called a couple local restaurants too, and they seemed like they did well. So kudos to Chad and on that. So
Okay, and any other council members?
I've got one, the mental health thing kind of reminded me, this is National Police Week, May 10th to the 16th. So I just wanted to recognize the police department, sheriff's department, state patrol, everybody that helped keep us one of the safest communities in the state. Sure. Thanks, Preston.
I think-
Thanks for bringing that up.
I think Brad said per capita, we're the safest city in the state.
And
Is that right?
I think so, and we've typically been in the top 2 or 3
Yeah.
for years. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. The police department's obviously one big part of it.
probably two when you were there, huh? Now
Yeah,
we're
they
not
got a lot better.
Now we're at one.
Thanks, buddy.
You got it.
Very good. Anything else? from the
I have a
council?
couple,
Go ahead.
I have a couple questions. So, Aaron, I know I reached out to you about, what do we need to do to change policy on Golfview that we had talked that night and Chad agreed, not allowing the 20,000 infill on those 9 homes out there?
We just need to make a policy change, which would be a council, we'll put it on, if we can put it on the next agenda, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. And then I have one other thing I just want to address the council about, and everybody's city manager. I think transparency and integrity are essential in public office, and so telling the truth to the public is just what we need to do. After the last meeting with the Golfview vote, and I was filing, and if you notice, I always have lots of papers with me. I print a lot. I plant trees every year too. It's all good. But I noticed that Chad actually signed that executive version of the development agreement on March 16th. But when we got the packet on March 19th, the packet came out to City Council. I got my notice. I looked at it that evening. There was not a signed document for that draft for the agreement. It was blank in our package that night, and it's probably still that way on the web. So I'm not sure why that was left out. If he already signed this document dated March 16th, it was notarized by Michelle Pritchard on that date, she signed for it, then we should have known, because that night I obviously did not know at that first council meeting that this had been going on. I didn't know anything about this development, and I asked questions even about what was the executive version that, all of those questions, and nobody could answer. But I think this piece of paper should have been included in that packet that Chad signed.
Here's another question, I guess. Did Michelle Pritchard, she's on P&Z, right? Did she abstain from this vote?
So let's take one question at a time.
Okay.
So to answer the first question, I can't answer why that signed document wasn't in the packet. Normally we take that packet and whatever we have, we do put it in. We like to have this, when we bring a development agreement to you, the person that is the developer normally agrees to it before we bring it to the council. So we don't have the developer going after we set a public hearing and stuff. We don't have that coming back and saying, well, no, I really want to change this, which is why we had talked about this was a possibility that we would not have the Ziegler Cat agreement on the agenda tonight, because they had made some questions. We had said, oh, this is our final offer for those things. And then I got an email yesterday saying that, yeah, all right, we'll agree to that. So, and not having that document in there, I don't know. Quite frankly, I haven't seen that document. I didn't handle it, but we will make sure that we have those documents in the packet in the future, if and when we have them.
Well, I had been asked Chad a lot of questions that night, and I had a conversation with him the following day, but he never mentioned once that it was signed on his behalf, that he had already signed the document on March 16th. So I think this is where we lack some transparency to our taxpayers in the city. And I think going forward, we need to be really aware of that. And if we have documents and development agreements that are signed, as council members, we should know that.
Well, as I said, when we bring them to you, they are agreed to by the developer. So we typically have them signed prior to us coming to the council. So I would take that as, if it's coming to you, the developer has agreed to it.
Well, as a new city council person, I had no idea that was the fact. And as you know, I asked a lot of questions that night, because I think there were things in that agreement that weren't in the best interest of us as taxpayers. And so sometimes, and I don't think we have to have one-on-one meetings to be able to know that this was a done deal. I think that.
It was not a done deal because we as a city had not finalized our side yet.
Exactly, but Chad did. This document, this sign page should have been in the minutes, or the agenda packet that came on March 19th. If it was signed on the 16th, when that was put together, this should be there. It was agreed to, it was signed. It gives us, we don't look very transparent when these things happen. Just
So my
future
P&Z
reference.
comment, it probably not gonna change the vote, but we gotta be more, you know what I mean? We gotta be more careful on, like,
No,
We
I
have
don't,
to.
I don't know what you mean. What do you
So
mean?
She signed this thing, right? She's on P and Z.
She's signing it as a notary.
It's just, I wouldn't,
That has nothing to
Okay.
do with the price of tea in China in that case, that she's notarizing that that's Chad's signature. That's what she's signing,
she's at his bank.
which banks normally
Yeah,
notarize
okay.
things for people at their bank.
Yeah. And she's the greatest lady in the world. I just think we should try to clean it up.
There's nothing to clean up without, you can't always have a pristine output on things like that. I'm
I
sorry,
can tell,
that's,
I can even tell with these dates that we don't, so I mean, it
That's-
is what it is.
never, I'm not gonna say anything
Is
more,
it
that's ridiculous,
So it's
but.
assumed then that they're agreed to ahead of time?
Yeah, you can assume that we won't bring a development agreement to the council unless the developer is agreeing to what is on the paper.
So in the case of Ziegler, have they signed that document? What's in the packet?
I was advised yesterday that they are getting their principals, or whatever you wanna call them, to sign the document.
So it's not signed.
As of right this minute, no, we do not have a copy of the development agreement that has been signed
But you got an email from them indicating.
from the attorney that says this is what we're doing.
Okay.
I
Right, thank
just
you.
want to bring something up that I ran past Dave, and I did read through the whole Allers and Cooney document. I'm sure we all did. And then I went to the Code of Iowa because of various emails, because Allers and Cooney go around the state giving seminars on how to set up this type of area, and what the law says and what we must do. And I want to read, people are concerned about transparency. If you want to look it up, it's chapter 403.12, and it's point number 3, 403.12, number 3. And this is 403.12 is Urban Renewal Project, Powers of Municipality. And I wanted to make sure I interpreted this correctly, so I emailed this page from the code to Dave, wanted to know if I was correct. And here's what that portion, it's one sentence. These urban renewal areas, and I looked through Allers and Coney, the whole thing, they are following the law. And we depend on them to make sure we are following the law and the right protocol. Here's what it says. Any sale, conveyance, lease, or agreement provided for in this section, urban renewal area, may be made by a public body without appraisal, public notice, advertisement, or public bidding. We have that authority under chapter 403 in the Code of Iowa, and I think it's pretty clear what you say, Dave. That's what I was, when I emailed you about this. I don't want to put you.
How does that flow into transparency? That seems like the
Because,
counter up to transparency.
people said, well, you didn't post it, you didn't ask for RFPs, those kinds of things. The Code of Iowa says we aren't bound to that. Somebody can come to us.
So we don't need to be transparent.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, Dave.
Well, you're quoting, I mean, you're quoting things like a lawyer, so we don't have to be transparent is what you're saying. That's what that just said.
I'm not. Dave, do you want to explain
Well, no,
better than
I don't think that Dave needs to speak for you. You literally just read me a clause that states that I don't need to be
Start
transparent.
arguing over it, let's just,
Speak for me. I'm
the only
not
thing left is
following
city
this
manager
expertise.
comments and then go to adjournment.
Yeah.
So, Dave, what,
No, I think you guys are, I think you're bypassing each other on your statements. I don't think that is making any sort of claim on transparency or anti-transparency, that code section.
But why'd she say transparency then?
It's designating or setting out what the law is.
I know what the law says, but just,
For urban
she said,
renewal
when we're
districts.
talking about transparency, I'd like to inform you that the law says we don't have to be transparent.
It didn't, I didn't hear it that way.
Well, listen back to the tape. You'll probably hear it. Thank you.
All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
thank you.
All right. Roll call vote, please.
Atherton,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Coster,
Yes.
Sturts.
Yes.
We are adjourned.